Hi folks, Dave with dbstechtalk. Today we're going to talk about the Hifiman HE400i. I want to thank Hifiman for sending over the 400i 2020. Do greatly appreciate it. Hifiman, you rock. Don't forget to check out the links down below for playlists that were used to review the 400i 2020, also for gear that was used, and for all kinds of other information down there. On a side note, please do note this, that if you are looking for comparisons versus the 400i original, 400S, 4XX, it's going to be very minimal in those comparisons, mainly because I have very limited experience listening to the 400i original and the 400S. 4XX I've owned, but I have sold it like a year ago, so my listening memory is, it's going to be very limited, so I'm going to try not to make those comparisons. There will be comparisons made throughout about the Deva. So the 400i 2020 comes in this nice standard Hifiman box, and then you got some pictures, specs on the back. The specs on the back tell you that's 35 ohms, 93 decibels of sensitivity, frequency response of 20 hertz to 35 kilohertz, and weighs 370 grams or 13.05 ounces. Take the box off here, and you end up with some paperwork, some more paperwork, some foam, and here you go. So it's a very simple unboxing. You get your standard Hifiman cable, it's fabric. You get markings of L and R on your 3.5s going into the cups. You get a 90-degree 3.5 with a 1/4-inch adapter, and it is one of the best 1/4-inch adapters. Does not come flying off. I really do like the 1/4-inch adapters that Hifiman uses. You also get some food for the trolls, and you get your Hifimans. The 400i's have the similar headband to the Deva, except this one is black. I actually like that better than the tan color. Tan's alright, but I like black. Says Hifiman on the left cup, and then it says HE400i on the right cup. On the inside here we have L and R's listed, so that you know which is which. Also, you can tell by your angled pads. Metal yokes. You got little plastic bits right here on the sides, and then you got this nice faux leather pad, nice and thick, comfy. Your cups go all the way around inside out. You got your 3.5s on the bottom. Plop on your head. Very simple, very light. Do not have any problems with it. My ears do not touch the inside of the cups, even though they are a little bit small, but I can still get all of my ears all the way in without having anything touching. Build quality is good for the price point, and I don't mind it. I find also one of my complaints about the Deva was that when I would move my head around, they would just flop forward a little bit, and I do not have that problem with the 400i's. They stay stuck on my head with no problems. The pads are kind of like focus pads. They have this velourish fabric felt. It feels a little scratchy on the side of your face. I don't really care for it, but it's not uncomfortable. It does get a little bit warm after a few hours, but I can live with it. But they're easy enough to replace the pads if you want. They just pop off and on. You just need your little Hifiman ring, so you can put different pads on if you like. I didn't replace pads. Didn't have a problem with these pads. Alright, all that out of the way. How do the 400i 2020 edition sound? Well, they're a V-shape. Not a super aggressive V-shape though, which is nice. And you happen to get a pretty good experience. I'm really impressed with these, actually. I was a little skeptical, but I think Hifiman's done a good thing. So the 400i, They are power hungry. Pretty much any low power DAPs, dongles, phones, you're not going to push these. You pretty much need a portable amplifier or a desktop amplifier to push these. They require some juice, so do prepare for that. It's all of my sound impressions were done off of the desktop. I tried them on my phones and on my dongle, or on my phone and my dongles, and on DAPs. I just didn't really get a sound that I liked or enjoyed. They always sounded a little lackluster, like they were suffering for power. So I just sat here at my desk and listened to music and enjoyed them. So all sound impressions are done off of that. Speaking of what gear was used, we have the THX AAA 789, the Mytek Liberty. The Liberty is going balanced into the 789. Also, we have Gishelli down below here with the Gishelli Airish balanced amplifier and the Enog 2. Also, the Airish is being powered by the Grace Design S-DAC balanced. And then over here in the corner, which you can't see down below, is a Lake People RS08. And that is running balanced, and that is being sourced also by the Mytek. So that's all the gear that I used. There'll be links down below for all that. You can look up the information regarding those various items. How do they sound? All right, we'll get to it. As I already spoiled it, they do sound good. I'm decently impressed with the 400i 2020. Bass. The bass extends well, and you get a nice rumble out of the sub bass. You can get some body to that and have some impact. These are a fun sounding bass. They have decent detail retrieval. It's pretty much right on par with the price point, maybe a little bit better. I find that the detail retrieval never really let me down. The area that did let me down a little bit is they're a little bit lackluster in resolution. I found that they just didn't have refinement in the bass. Sounded a little bit loose, a little bit muddy, especially on busier tracks. When things got exciting, these tended to kind of go into one note mode and became very muddy. On the mids, the mids do suffer from a little bit of bass bleed, but that's actually a good thing. Gives a little bit of warmth, gives a little bit of thickness. Problem is, it also muddies things up a little bit, especially on busier tracks. The mids do lack a little bit of definition. They have a little bit of graininess, a little bit of harshness to them, but it's not super bad or annoying, but it's just enough to be there to remind you, oh, we're not the cleanest. Simple, less congested tracks sound better, but when things got a little busy, a little excited, the graininess did come out. Also, the muddiness kind of came forward a little bit. Also, it kind of recessed the vocals and instruments a little bit too much, and they suffered a little bit. It was kind of odd. Vocal presence is good, but it does lack refinement. And of course, it does have that issue, as I just mentioned, on busier tracks where they'll just kind of take a step further back and it'll push the bass and the treble a little bit more. The clarity is somewhat lackluster. Sounds a little bit on the compressed side. You do have a little bit of a haziness on it. It's not the cleanest sounding mids, but it's not super offensive either. Treble does have a touch of sibilance, but it is better controlled than what I remember off of the 4XX. And also, it does lack a little bit of refinement in the treble. It can sound a little strained, especially as it's reaching upwards. It kind of thins out a little bit, and it sounds a little excuse me, strained or harsh up top. But for the most part, the treble's actually very smooth and extended decently. Soundstage is better than average, and it has a decent amount of width to it. You can get things kind of expanding outward and coming in from all over. Does a good job there. Also has decent depth and layering. I found that you can view a stage and be able to read into it and look into it and listen into it a little bit. So that's a nice touch. Where it does struggle a little bit is on imaging. Imaging's not the most accurate and precise. It'll tell you if it's right, center, or left, and things flow and travel across, but it's not very pinpoint. You can't really hone in and say it's right there. It's more like, oh, that's right over in here. Also, it kind of jumbles things together on those busier tracks and kind of gets muddled up quite badly. Tone and timbre is not the best. It's not the most natural. It does have an artificial sound to it, a little bit enhanced sound to it, especially in the treble and in the mids. But it's not offensive. It has a little bit of a metallic sound to it, but it's you have to really nitpick to find it annoying. I don't find it to be super offensive, especially for the price point. It's just not a very accurate sound. It's just not a natural sound, but it's not an offensive sound at all. Some comparisons to the Deva. The Deva has better tone and timbre, in my opinion. Sounds more natural. Sounds more accurate in that regard. The bass extends better on the 400i, but the Deva has better detail, refinement. Just overall resolution is better on the Deva, in my opinion, even though the 400i reaches farther and has better impact. The mids are less recessed on the Deva, especially on busier tracks. And they're also a little bit cleaner. The treble on the Deva has less sibilance, and it's not quite as forward. And then also the Deva, in my opinion, has better air and just a cleaner presentation of the treble. Soundstage is about even on both of them, but I find that the Deva just does a little bit better job of being accurate in the imaging area. And then speed and details is way better on the Deva. The Deva does not get into problems on busier tracks. It doesn't muddle up and jumble up and get confused like the 400i does. Compared to the 4XX, my memory is a little limited. Hey, look, I got gray hair, so. But anyways, the 4XX, in my opinion, was a little bit more V-shaped, but had a little bit more body to it. It didn't sound quite as thin in the treble, but also was a little bit brighter in the treble. So the 4XX also had a little bit more impact and thump in the bass, and was a little bit more refined, but it's very subtle differences. I don't really recall too many differences at all. I just know that I actually prefer the 400i than the 4XX because of the treble. There you go. But I think the 4XX is a little bit more resolved, a little bit more refined in that regard overall. Do I recommend the 400i? Yes, actually I do. I like it a lot. It's actually a very good starter planar. Hifiman's done a good job of hitting the price point of $170. And if you want an introduction to what planar sounds like, here you go. If you want an introduction into what Hifiman has to offer, here you go, $170. Can you do better? Yes, I think that if you can push $50 or so more, the Deva is a better option. Also, if you can double your price tag, the Sundara is far superior to the 400i in all regards. So, kind of depends on what you're looking for when it comes to this. But if you're looking for a good budget planar, the 400i is an excellent option. And I really do enjoy it. Very comfortable, light, sounds good, and priced well. It's been Dave with DBS Tech Talk. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video. Speaking of next videos, don't forget to check out the links down below, check out the screen, subscribe, notify the bells, all that good stuff. Talk to you later.